Former President Donald Trump, never one to shy away from the spotlight, has once again thrust himself into the global arena, this time as a self-proclaimed peace broker in the Russia-Ukraine war. On April 26, 2025, Trump confidently asserted that a peace deal between the warring nations was imminent. He urged both sides to seize this opportunity to end the bloodshed, claiming that most of the major points of contention had been resolved. This bold declaration, reminiscent of his 2016 campaign promise to swiftly resolve the Syrian conflict, has been met with a mixture of skepticism and cautious optimism. Trump's claims, however, come with a significant caveat. He has repeatedly stated that Crimea, the Ukrainian peninsula annexed by Russia in 2014, should remain under Russian control. This stance, rooted in his belief that Crimea is historically and culturally Russian, has drawn sharp criticism from Ukraine and its Western allies. They view it as a dangerous precedent that rewards aggression and undermines international law. Trump's assertion that a peace deal is within reach has undoubtedly injected a new dynamic into the conflict. However, his stance on Crimea, a highly sensitive issue for both Ukraine and Russia, threatens to derail the fragile peace process before it truly begins. The international community watches with bated breath as the fate of Ukraine hangs in the balance. Trump's unwavering stance on Crimea has become a major stumbling block in the ongoing peace negotiations. He has repeatedly questioned Ukraine's decision not to fiercely resist the 2014 annexation, even going so far as to blame the Obama administration for the loss of the peninsula. Trump's view, based on the premise that Crimea is predominantly Russian-speaking and holds historical significance for Russia, has put immense pressure on Ukraine to make concessions. This pressure is particularly acute given Trump's suggestion that a peace deal recognizing Crimea as Russian territory could pave the way for security guarantees for Ukraine and the lifting of sanctions on Russia. Such a deal, while potentially appealing to Russia, would be a bitter pill for Ukraine to swallow. It would mean relinquishing their claim to a strategically important territory, a move that could be seen as a betrayal by the Ukrainian people. The Crimean Conundrum highlights the complexities of the Russia-Ukraine conflict and the challenges in finding a peaceful resolution. Trump's approach, while seemingly pragmatic, risks exacerbating existing tensions and undermining the principles of territorial integrity and international law. Trump's efforts to broker a peace deal have centered around his envoy, Steve Witkoff, who has held numerous meetings with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow. These meetings, shrouded in secrecy, have fueled speculation and raised eyebrows in diplomatic circles. While the Kremlin has described the talks as constructive and useful, details about the proposed peace plan remain scarce. Witkoff's solo meetings with Putin, an unusual diplomatic practice, have further fueled concerns about the lack of transparency in the negotiation process. Critics argue that this approach sidelines Ukraine and its Western allies, potentially leading to a deal that favors Russia. They fear that Trump, eager for a foreign policy victory, might pressure Ukraine into accepting a deal that compromises its sovereignty and territorial integrity. As the negotiations continue, the world watches with a mixture of hope and trepidation. The stakes are high, and the outcome will have far-reaching consequences for the future of Ukraine, Russia, and the international order. Despite the ongoing negotiations and Trump's optimistic pronouncements, the situation on the ground in Ukraine remains dire. Fighting continues unabated, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. The recent missile and drone attacks on Kiev, claiming the lives of innocent civilians, serve as a stark reminder of the human cost of this brutal conflict. Amidst the devastation, however, there are glimmers of hope. The fact that both sides are engaged in negotiations, however fraught with challenges, suggests a willingness to explore avenues for peace. The presence of both Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at Pope Francis's funeral in Rome has raised the possibility of a face-to-face meeting, a development that could potentially inject new momentum into the peace process. The path to peace in Ukraine remains long and arduous. The outcome of the current negotiations is uncertain, and the potential for a lasting resolution to the conflict remains fragile. However, the pursuit of peace, however difficult, must remain the ultimate goal. The alternative is simply unthinkable.